Yes.
Hi, welcome to All Things Possible. We're super excited to have you join us this week for the part 4 of our conflict resolution tactics.
Part 4.
Part 4. We are really glad to have you here. If you have not joined our community, we love to have just a ton of fun with our community of All Things Possible. So if you haven't joined us, go to allthingspossible.biz and join our community. We love to give you information. We put out a blog and a video, so a vlog as well.
Yes, join our community, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you get all the new information as it comes out weekly.
So let's jump into this content today because this is part 4. And part 4 is collaboration. And collaboration can be a lot of things. The definition of collaboration is the action of working with someone to produce or create something, or a process of working together to create a project and to achieve that goal, right? And so when we think of collaboration, a lot of times we think that it's only in business and that, to collaborate together, right? That it's like only your team at work or only those things. But collaboration is actually a part of our everyday life, and it can be our personal or professional life.
And we saved this one till last in our part 4, our 4-part series, because collaboration, if you can learn the keys and the skills of collaborating, truly collaborating with people, you won't have conflicts that you need to resolve. It's a good conflict avoider technique.
Right. So the reason that this tactic is important to us and why we've included it in the four ways, right, the 4 tactics to use, is that if you're using the other ways that we've taught you, and you're identifying those things and you're working through those processes and you're implementing the things that we have taught you, then you're to that point where collaboration actually helps you. It's going to create a way for you to just avoid even having the conflict to begin with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So psychologists will tell you, they tell us, because we don't know, and so they tell us, that we are naturally programmed to say no. I mean, we learn it. I mean, how many little kids grow up thinking their name is no-no? Okay.
You did.
I did.
I didn't.
I actually still do think my name is no-no.
It still is no-no.
But we're kind of psychologically programmed to say no. And when we are collaborating, that's our first response. They're telling, well, that's a dumb idea. I mean, if it's stellar, and we're not too mad that we didn't think of it first, we might say it's good. But naturally, we want to say no.
That is so funny.
And so it requires certain things.
Right. So when we get to that point to have collaboration, there's some things that we have to have into place. Collaboration requires leadership. It requires cooperation, right? You have to cooperate with people and have that leadership to where you are open to have everyone's ideas explored and everybody has a voice.
And let's go back to that. Leadership doesn't mean that you stand in front of the room and boss everybody around. Leadership's about being the leader you would follow, being your excellent best self, and standing up for that. It isn't necessarily bossing other people around. Another great thing to develop is problem-solving skills.
Right. If you can solve those problems and keep that from becoming a barrier that gets into collaboration, you'll have a lot more success. And while you're doing those problem-solving skills, you should also have good communication skills. Because when there's a breakdown in communication, that's where most of our conflict starts, right? So we've got to start that with communication skills, whether that's with your team or with your family.
Whatever that,
your relationships.
with whatever, when you're speaking and dealing with another person, you're in some kind of a relationship. And these skills, these qualities, these attributes will come into every single time you deal with a person. You can apply these.
Well, and you have to be willing to have knowledge sharing. So when you have that knowledge sharing, it gives you the safety and the network with you that you can have that IP, your intellectual property, to be able to share that and feel safe to share that and to know that it's going to be brought into collaboration.
And so, I mean, if you know that what you've got, your idea is good, don't just hold on to it. Use it to bring the whole team together and lift everybody. If you don't know if your idea is good, still be willing to share it, because somebody else might be able to tweak it just a little bit and turn it into a great idea.
Right. So the next thing is you have to have a lot of characteristics where you embody these as a whole. So when you have collaboration, think of it in a marriage. When you have collaboration in marriage, when you have these characteristics and they're solid, and you know it from each other, you trust each other more. Well, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in our professional life. We've got to have these characteristics and we've got to embody them and live them to have it be.
And to embody them, it means that we constantly work to improve ourselves and be better at these characteristics. Oh my goodness, what are those characteristics?
There's a bunch of them. Trust.
Okay, and you trust yourself.
Well,
trust the people you work with, okay?
Right, we want safety.
What does safety mean? Is that steel-toed boots?
Well, maybe. No, safety so that you feel safe to share and you feel like people aren't going to make fun of you or belittle you if maybe your idea wasn't the best one given that day.
Okay. And creativity.
Yes, we need creativity.
And creativity is being afraid to just throw something out there that might seem kind of crazy, but that's where the creative things come from. That's where the ideas come from. People that only have safe ideas, that monitor everything that before they say it and then they filter it down, that kills the creativity. So you've got to develop that.
Right, and you've got to have respect. There's got to be mutual respect for everyone in the group, everyone that's involved.
And that is that you respect them enough to say, okay, that deserves some consideration. We'll talk about that. Thank you for your contribution. It doesn't mean that you have to do whatever they think, but allow them that respect to where...
Thank you for sharing. Right?
Yes. I thought you were saying that to me. It was time to be quiet.
It worked, right?
You shut me right up. There's a tip.
Okay, so effective communication will go a long ways, no matter what you're doing, right? And that is another characteristic, effective communication.
And the characteristic of empowerment, to build up those around you, to empower them, to give them what they need to reach their full potential, which comes down to, if you back up, to trust, a safe space, respect.
All those other things, right? Also, willingness. Willing to jump in, to get involved, to share ideas. You have to have that willingness. So much of the time, we put up a wall and we kind of sit back, and especially, like right now, a lot of things are virtual. You just say, does anybody have a question? Everybody just sits there, right? We have to be willing to be vulnerable and out there, and that willingness needs to be a characteristic that the whole group embodies.
Willingness to contribute and willingness to be willing to say something that everybody else says, yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
Well,
Okay.
and also willing to bite your tongue if someone says something that you think is off the wall. Because sometimes I have to bite my tongue.
We got Band-Aids. They're saliva-proof Band-Aids. She uses them all
Yeah,
the
right.
time. And the L word.
The leadership word.
Again with the L word.
Leadership has to be there, right? And we have to have courage. We have to have the courage to be a leader. We have to have courage to speak up. We have to have courage to share. We have to have courage to trust. So there's a lot of courage that's involved with this.
Okay, well, this is all good, but so why do you want to collaborate? It's just so much easier to tell everybody they're wrong and do it my way. I mean, that's my thing. So
Well,
why
for
would
me, it creates culture and creativity, so that creativity can grow. Like if you don't embody those things and you don't have some basic rules around collaboration, it's not going to happen. People aren't going to feel safe and they won't share. So yeah, why do we want this? If we want to move forward in a big way and have phenomenal things happen, we need to be creative and
Absolutely.
and have that safe place.
And a successful team is going to create more profits, more success for the business. And they have to have that culture where these things can grow. That's how yogurt happens, is in a great culture. Okay, and you need it here. That was off the wall. Anyway, so And also, everybody on your team needs to feel heard and valued. You never want that person that every time they raise their hand, you say, sit down, you don't know what you're talking about.
Or skip them when you're calling on people, right?
Right.
We also have to allow team members to work at their highest potential. And when we create an environment that is
Well, the benefits, this is a benefit of it, of doing all these things, of having the collaboration, everybody reaches their full potential instead of being throttled down.
But we want this because we want everyone working at their highest potential. We want everyone continuing to improve themselves and raise the bar. Because when we do that, the entire company raises.
Absolutely.
Or the entire family raises, right? We also, personally, it's better for our relationships. As we have collaboration in our relationships, I mean, think of that significant person that you have in your life. And when you collaborate together and you have a focus of where you're headed, a vision of where you want to go and what things are happening, whether that's building a home or having children or where you're going to live or what's going to become of all of that, having that together allows you to move forward together faster and be happier. And think of it with children or maybe even teenagers. You know, when you have the collaboration to work together and get their ideas, things happen in a great way. I remember with one of our all of our sons have kind of their own personality, their own way to do things, but one in particular, he and I are a lot alike, and it was very good for me to just recognize that when we collaborated together, I could just say, well, we need to paint the room and turn it over to him. And he was great to be like, well, I'm going to do this and this and this. Or, hey, let's bury the trampoline. And he was really good at being able to step forward and do that because I was willing to collaborate with him and his abilities and his strengths, and it would move the project forward.
And they did a great job of burying the trampoline, and like the next week, the kids wanted to use it, so I dug it up.
Yeah, whatever. It's still there. And it's not got stuff on it.
It's on ground level. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
So I said it wrong, right?
No, that's where my collaborative brain went.
Yeah, he collaborated with us on that.
I think that's coagulated. Anyway.
Well, and we're going to open this space to have a safe place. And it just fosters respect and acceptance and belonging. We all have to belong. So you want your family members to belong. We want those teenagers to feel like they belong and that they want to spend time with us. And we want those team members at work and those employees to feel that they belong and that they matter and that we want to have their input. We want to have having everyone involved. More brains is more power, right?
Yes, and when they feel that significance and belonging, that they matter, you're going to get a lot more out of, be it a member on your team, an employee, a spouse, a child, a parent. This works for anybody you interact with. It's cool. You can use it for everything.
What's a way that you can encourage your team or the area? I mean, are all ideas good ideas? Like, how can we foster that ideas idea?
Let's say that, okay, take a family situation. Where do we want to go on our summer vacation? At work, we've got this huge problem. How are we going to solve it? This is something we've never seen before. What are we going to do to solve this problem?
Right.
And there's a great thing you can do. Why don't you tell them about that?
Improv? Are you talking about improv or the brain dump?
Because the brain dump is improv. So the first thing, just have a brain dump where there are no bad ideas to begin with. Every idea that everybody, you write it down and you consider it. Everything that everybody has to say, every suggestion. Now some of them are going to be flat wrong,
but all ideas matter.
But all ideas matter, and so some of them just aren't going to fly. Okay. But they matter, they deserve at least a short lifespan to see if they can take off.
Well, and there's going to be some that aren't. But there's going to be some you hear that sound like a terrible idea that might not be. Like, we did some research, and we found one that was pigs on pot.
Pigs on pot, as in, it's really good. Pig feet pot.
Marijuana.
So, Washington, one of the first states to legalize marijuana, once they have farmers growing marijuana. Well, they're trying to, I mean, it costs a lot to tool up with all that new machinery. They're trying to figure out how they can maximize their profits. There's some byproducts of the marijuana that they could do. They had no use for it. The roots and the leftover stems. There was no market for it. It was like, what can we do to get some profits out of these? And somebody in this farmers group says, well, we've got pigs, and they are awfully expensive to feed. Why don't we mix that stuff in with our pig feed and have stoned pigs? And of course, everybody's first thing is like, no,
bad idea.
Bad idea, right? But they considered it for just a little while, and they said, you know what? Let's give it a try. So they started mixing the marijuana roots and the stems, the stalks,
the leftovers,
with their pig feed, just the junk. And it worked amazing. The pigs ate it, and there was an unintended benefit. You see, when the pigs eat the marijuana stuff, they get the munchies.
Yeah, the pigs with munchies.
And the reason you grow pigs is because you want them to get big and fat, right? Well, the pigs that were actually eating the marijuana munchie stuff, within a short amount of time, they was like 30% heavier than all the other pigs. So it turned out to be a great idea, not just to get rid of that, but to get the pigs to bulk up faster.
Right, run in more money, more revenue.
So I wouldn't suggest that
pigs on pot was a good idea.
That worked for pigs. I don't know if you want to try it for children or pets. Unless you have a pet pig that you don't think is large enough. Anyway.
So, not all ideas are going to be good ideas, and not all bad ideas will be bad ideas.
But the key is, you don't shut somebody down and say no. We talked about our natural response is to say no. You know, if you've ever watched improv comedy where they give them a beginning scenario or a sentence. One person says this crazy sentence. It's like, where did that come from? The thing that makes it work, and you've heard that can be really funny, is to use the yes and theory. As soon as you say no, it shuts down the creative process. The thing crashes and burns right there. And so we are going to start with a little
maybe improv. We'll do some improv.
How about if we do some improv?
So do I get a start?
You can start with improv.
Okay, so, honey, why did you drive off the cliff?
Yes, I did, and I did it because I wanted to try out these wings that we bolted onto the car. Look how we're just gliding along in our car.
Oh, yes, and with those wings, like even this one on my side is flapping, and it just broke off.
Yes, and so did the other one. And we're falling towards the lake.
Yes, and it's okay because I attached a parachute.
You put a parachute on the car? Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh, we're just gliding along. Yes, and you know that gray cloud with acid rain in it? It just ate holes in our parachute.
Acid rain, yes.
And we're going down.
Hurry, pump up the airbags and make this turn into a hovercraft.
Yes, and there's a team of swordfish in the lake. The airbags aren't going to help.
Yes, and I guess we better swim, right? Okay, so the minute that you don't say yes and, the minute that you stop, the minute there's a no, it stops all progress.
So if we had started that conversation, and obviously we're just playing there, but you get the idea. If we had started and Kris says,
you never know.
Why did you just
would create?
I don't even know. Why did you just drive off a cliff? And I could either start arguing with her and say, I didn't just drive off a cliff. I'm going down the road just like normal. It's dead. That whole.
Or it could say, I didn't. I swerved because there was something in the road.
Yes, and that was.
And it immediately stops that progression.
That was just a small ledge. It wasn't actually a cliff.
Whenever there's a contradiction or a no, there's a stop. Whenever it's not just okay, just no matter what it is, you accept and yes and.
So, they will die. Again, bad ideas. After exploring this amongst ourselves as we collaborated on that, I feel that we have come to the decision that it is truly a bad idea to put wings on your car. Unless you're the Jetsons.
Okay, So I think that we're going to have flying cars before too long, and we're finally going to catch up to the Jetsons. But I always thought they had a propeller thinger on the top, not
So maybe we can work on the
flappers
propeller.
on the side.
But for right now, that's not in our immediate future. So we're going to shelve that little idea. Now I don't feel like an idiot for, it's like, well, hey, I'm cool. I'm in with the Jetsons.
Well, on the vehicle with wheels and wings, we call airplanes.
That's right. So when you got them, we don't.
So maybe it wasn't a bad idea.
We don't need to do it to Mama's SUV. Anyway, can you see how?
Yeah, leave the Lexus alone.
You can
dude.
still have an idea that is not so good, but nobody feels shut down or unwanted, and it creates that safe place for the idea. So
really quick, to end this, I want to bring up a few more ideas because this is getting to be a long video today. But when we do the yes and collaboration, during COVID, we have had a ton of companies and different ideas that did the yes and.
Some great success stories that we can see because instead of saying, no, we can't.
Like the shutdown. Instead of just no, we started working from home. Yes, and we can work from home, right? Yes, and we can get new phone systems. Yes, and we can do a new program, right?
The other thing, the other option is say, oh, people can't come into work. No, we can't go any further. We can't service our customers. We must shut down the business. And yet by applying this yes and principle, they've come up with all these creative solutions.
There were some that did shut down, and that made our unemployment skyrocket, right? We did have some of that. But we had so many shift into other things by the yes and, whether that's retool your whole production company to create the stuff that we needed, right? There were so many that did the yes and that are really bringing us back. Even just yesterday or this last week, I made a phone call just to pay one of our accounts that we have and just to call in the credit card, and I called the number on the statement and it went straight to a personal cell phone that was full. And I had left a message the day before, but this day it was full. And I finally had to call
corporate.
I had to call corporate, get a phone number and say, I can't get a hold of anybody, right? And they're like, oh, well, that person is here. And yes, that was her cell phone. Like, the personal cell phone is what is on the statement that comes out to every state.
But it was their creative solution. It was their yes solution to keep going when they couldn't bring all their people into work and work in these little cubicles next to each other.
Right. It totally works. Think about...
And they still took our money.
Yeah, they
were
liked
willing
our
to
money.
accept it. So it worked for them and us because they provided great service.
We had some really dear friends that we wanted to do date night with during this COVID thing, and last minute we decided to have them come over, and I wanted to make homemade ice cream out on the deck. But I didn't have the ingredients that I needed, and I didn't have time to go to the store and, clean the house and get ready. And I called Instacart. That person goes to the store, shops for you, and delivers it. That's not like calling the grocery store.
They pick up what you've already told them on their
ordering
list.
And you go pick up. They do the whole thing. Instacart, it was brilliant. That was totally yes and. Yes, I will go buy your groceries, and I will go
because I will deliver them to your door. And because somebody came up with a solution by, oh, that can't be done. If you can't go to the grocery store, you can't have your groceries. Somebody used the yes and thinking process and created a great business. Another thing, with the COVID going on, restaurants, 2 years ago, if you would have told restaurants, hey, if tomorrow all at once nobody could come into your restaurant, what are you going to do?
What are your options?
Most people would have said, we're going out of business. And yet look at the creative solutions that restaurants came up with by applying, whether they knew it or not what they was using, it was that possibility, is that yes and.
Yeah, yes and we're going to have DoorDash. So all the Uber drivers that now don't have a job because nobody's going anywhere, they're DoorDash drivers.
Right. And they come up with their own in-house delivery service. They would send their people out there. There may be people that used to bus tables.
And people that servers
are now delivering orders.
Food.
Delivering orders from
You have curbside. So all you do is you order the whole thing, and it's online ordering, and you pull up, they run out with your stuff.
You
never have to go in.
Yeah.
I mean, restaurants were brilliant in this department. And of course, toilet paper being delivered to your door. from an office store. That was the best part. One of the first places you could get toilet paper was the office stores.
Because that was the first lesson we learned with COVID is you have to have cases and cases of toilet paper.
And water, right?
Because that's the first thing we run out of, and yet there's solutions for it with the yes and principle.
Yep, the yes and. Yes, we'll bring you your paper and your ink cartridges and your paper clips and your toilet paper. And of course, there was the yes and. We also needed to have air freshener.
With our toilet. Well, I don't know why she's pointing at me. And then they go together like peanut butter and chocolate. Toilet paper, air freshener. That's the way it is.
Thanks for joining us. We love having you here. This is part 4.
Yes,
of
and
this
what if you
series.
had scented toilet paper? Okay, thank you for joining
We're
us.
not even going to go there. We're going to just put a no right there to that one. So,
Somebody already did.
Our conflict resolution part 4 on collaboration. If you haven't seen the others, they're the 3 previous to this. You've got all 4 videos there together.
They're titled part 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, pretty easy. They're all
I'll bet
called
you
collaboration. Conflict resolution tactics.
Yes, and it was fun being.
Thanks for coming. If you haven't joined our community, allthingspossible.biz, we'd love to have you with us. See you next time. Bye-bye.